for in general, you're trying to make a clean cup of coffee.
Welcome to the Coffee Snobs Podcast, where we just really love good coffee.
So grab your cup of coffee and join us each episode as we explore any and everything coffee related.
From pour-overs to lattes to the coffee experience, we explore it all. Because, well, life's too short to drink bad coffee. Let's go.
Welcome back to another episode of the Coffee Snobs Podcast. It's me, Tyler Dancy, and I am joined, as always, by the man who frequently walks uphill both ways just for a good cup of coffee, Mr. Aaron Beaver.
Hello. Hello.
How are you today?
Well, I'm good. I rode my bike into work today.
You rode your bike. Mm-hmm. How far was that?
It wasn't that far. It wasn't as far as one would think. It was only 15 miles, so it wasn't bad.
15 miles.
It was in traffic, so that was fun. That was a lot of fun.
Well, you would do a lot of...
I passed like 5 really good coffee shops, and I had not had a cup of coffee this morning, and I wanted to stop really bad, but I just kept going.
Takes probably a little bit longer, I'd imagine, riding a bike 15 miles.
You know what? It actually was not.
Really?
Yeah, seriously. Okay, so I work downtown Charlotte, and I live about 43 miles from work. So I drove my car about 15 miles closer than, because the first 15 miles is kind of sketchy, and so I rode the last 15 in a direct line and cut out a ridiculous amount of excess distance, and like made it to work 7 minutes slower than I normally would in the morning.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. Good times though.
I do not ride my bike to work. I live
No, you're soft. You used to ride we used to ride bikes all the time, and she's...
Yep, I'm soft. I'm sitting here sipping my coffee and doing some running, but I know. Well, so speaking of coffee, Aaron, what is in your cup?
Well, I'm really excited. I got to make it to Raleigh, like I mentioned on a previous episode. Got to go to a coffee shop, Heirloom. But on my way out of Raleigh, I went by Black and White. And Black and White in our area is getting a lot of attention because the two founders of Black and White Roastery are the 16 and 17 World Barista Champions.
Wow.
And so... the level of coffee equipment that they have and is top notch, and so their coffee is really blowing up. And so I was able to pick up a few bags, but got you a bag and got me 2. I think it's Geisha Village natural and a Geisha Village washed. So it's 2 of the exact same beans from the exact same farm, just 2 different processes. And I really enjoy that.
Now, that sounds like it could be confusing. This is not the geisha like we sample on a recent episode. Is that more like a buzzword or a marketing term or a process?
I'm not 100% sure. I think it's actually from the farm. That farm may be Geisha Village. And so where the farm came from. So I'm not 100% sure. I could be talking out of my... but it was really good. It was what the reason why I like picking up 2 bags that are, anytime I can come across 2 bags that are from the same farm, but they're a different process, you really start to tell the difference between a natural and a processed, or a natural and a washed, or natural and a honeyed. And man, it's a big difference, big difference. My wife, about halfway through the bags, because we were doing like 1 cup one morning, another cup another morning, and I was doing 2 cups and was doing like a washed and then a natural, and just kind of comparing them between each. And about halfway through, she was like, I really like natural. And there's just something about it. I think the flavor just comes out a little bit more. But yeah, it's been really, really good. Really love what they're doing. Getting a lot of attention. The The guys are great on social media. So if you don't follow Black and White Roaster, yeah, you need to. It's good. What about you, Tyler?
Cool. Well, I did try some Ethiopian from Black and White, and it was quite tasty. But I have gone back to my first love. I've recently got some more Phantom Limb blend from Huckleberry out in Denver, Colorado. And man, like I said, not to say that the Black and White or any of the other recent stuff I've had has been bad by any means, but there's something about the Phantom Limb for me that is just very, very flavorful, and I'd been away from it for a while, and then just going back to it, it's like, it feels like home, so.
I'm gonna need you to do a deep dive in that Phantom Limb and figure out why or what, because
I will, yeah.
In periodic episodes, you really you love that coffee, which that was a turning coffee for me and you. I mean, I remember the first time we got it, and it was great.
Yeah, it is a blend. I do know that, and I do believe it's Ethiopian, but it's just a little more exotic as far as fruit forward. I don't know if this has to do with the roasting or the harvesting, but I will get into that. So on to today's topic. We have finally nailed down our white whale, or should I say Aaron has.
Yeah.
Aaron, I'll let you set this up. Tell us about today's episode.
So this episode is with a gentleman by the name of Aaron Moxley, and Aaron is he's the definition of a home barista. He has been doing competitions, and you'll hear his journey through coffee and how he got started, but he competed in the last two coffee competitions in Richmond, Virginia, and as well as Nashville, and is just really, really cool guy and knows a lot about coffee, and hasn't been in the coffee game too long, but is truly a home barista. Is not affiliated with a shop. Doesn't sling hundreds of cups of coffee a day, and is doing really, really well in the competition scene. So we've been trying to set this up for a while, but very, very excited to have him on the episode and kind of talk through. And he talks a little bit at the end about some very unique coffee that is hitting the market. Just some weird stuff. And so I challenge you to hop on and listen, and it's really, really good. Been a good conversation.
Cool. All right. Well, one Aaron's good, so two must just be really good. So let's start the interview with Aaron Makes Coffee.
I am extremely excited to have Aaron Moxley. His Instagram handle is Aaron Makes Coffee. We've been trying to line this up for a while. I'm going to stop talking because this guy knows a lot about coffee, and he is a home barista and a true home barista. So, Aaron, thank you for hopping on, man. I really appreciate taking the time to talk.
Oh, yeah, for sure, man.
So let's just jump right into it. What is a home barista?
I would say basically it's just... someone that doesn't, work for a shop, does not connected to a shop in any way, and just, really enjoys coffee and, makes it at home, on a consistent, basically daily basis.
The reason why Aaron's on here is because he is a home barista that qualified to go to Nashville for making coffee. He's that good. Like, how did you start, or where did you start your coffee journey?
So I was, stationed at Fort Carson when I was active duty Army in Colorado Springs. I was drinking a lot of beer and spending a lot of money on craft beer and really into it. And I started taking pictures and things like that. And my Instagram, before it was coffee, it was all beer. And for some reason I was like, I'm going to go to this one roaster that's in Colorado Springs, and I'm going to, check it out.
Yeah.
And so I did. This amazing guy, Brandon Del Grosso, the owner, and this was before they've expanded quite a bit now. But I went there. He set me up with my whole pour over system. At the time, I had a V60 server. I bought one of the Hario hand grinders, but it was the one with the big big like mason jar type thing
Yeah,
on the bottom,
yeah.
and I never could figure the thing out, so I'd never really used it. And I would just get him when I went to get coffee from him. I would just have him grind the whole bag. So yeah, I mean, it worked for a year and a half. I mean, 2 years. I think I did that.
Dude, you like jumped all in though.
Yeah. No, I like from the beginning. Like I just like I started getting some bags. I think first before I could afford all that, and would just have them grind everything. And I was actually putting it in like a Mr. Coffee pot or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's just so I had better coffee.
Right.
And then I was like, all right, pour over time. And so I just like went all in and just
And so it's just, I mean, it's just
and
spiraled. So now how many years has that been?
that was in it's a little over 6 years now.
Wow.
Or
Okay.
like right at 6 years
Yeah.
or a little over. And I mean, man, it's just been like it's honestly just like every day, just
Yeah.
like, oh, try, let's try with, a 1-to-16 ratio, 1-to-17, 1-to-15. And and I mean, you over time, you get like that, like, you kind of know where you're going to go with like
Right.
ratio wise. And it's just like, oh, let's try it with these many grams, and let's try, there's, all these parameters that you can mess around with. And I just love it so much. And Instagram has been key. Like, I don't know where I'd be if it wasn't for Instagram.
Yeah.
Because that is the place that I go and I have my friends, and we talk about, we post about this, this ratio, this recipe, this parameter, this brewing device. Hey, have you tried this? And we ping pong stuff off of each other. And, that's how I found out about the mountain dripper that I used in competition. The recipe that I used in qualifiers. That's how I found out, not in qualifiers, but in preliminaries, was a recipe from a friend. Qualifiers was my own, but yeah.
So real quick, since we're talking about Instagram, if you don't follow him, it is Aaron Makes Coffee, AARON MAKESCOFFEE. Aaron Makes Coffee. Like, you will be challenged, one, because his game is so high, dude, I remember, I think it was you and B Gold was it?
Yeah.
Drink Gold, B Gold, or B Gold?
Drink Gold. It's
I think
now
it's,
you got me.
Yeah, I know.
Now you got me.
He's in Austin. I think he's in Texas.
No, he's in Utah.
Utah.
Yeah.
So one day,
I was in Utah.
you and him were doing an Instagram story, like an Instagram live, and so like y'all were talking through making coffee, and I was like, dude, I was just hooked because you were talking about like super. What I say is the details, because that's where I love getting into coffee. Like, I've got a Excel spreadsheet with just a ton of data that I've recorded, just so that way I could make a consistent cup of coffee. So it sounds like you're the exact same way, like just to get fine-tuned, honed in, pursuing the best cup of coffee that you can create at home.
Exactly. I am the worst though at documenting and keeping things written down. I don't know.
So is it just muscle memory then?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just like, hey, like, I did this last time. I did this. I'm going to change it up this time.
Okay.
We're going to do this.
Okay, so you change your method, kind of, you do something one day and then you try to adjust it to in the pursuit of the best cup of coffee. So,
Exactly.
okay, first off, are you a manual brew or are you with a machine?
Oh, no, manual.
Manual. Okay, so
I don't even have. I mean, I do want to get like a Breville or Bonavita, like a nice, like, automatic coffee pot. Just so I can, like, some days just like, press a button.
right.
Just,
But still to a
have the
standard, right?
consistency.
It's still it's not your Mr. Coffee,
Exactly.
burning sensation coffee, like where it's, So I got you. Okay, so manual brew is where we're gonna say, and if you had any manual brew coffee setup, what would be your go-to?
Like entire setup?
I'm gonna say entire setup. Like
Okay.
you have any option. You could be an AeroPress, a Chemex, it could be a Kalita, it could be a V60. Any, like, everything's on the table. You get to pick.
So it's a tough one because I mean, you know how much I love the AirPress.
I know. I think it's what is it AeroPress? What day of the
Monday AirPress Club?
Monday AeroPress Club? Yeah.
Yeah, which is funny. That was started by some guys that were had a podcast. Yeah, it was called I Brew Coffee, and it was my my good friend Brian Bikey and Brian Sheely. Brian Bikey works for Quills, but his handle is Abandoned Coffee. If anybody wants to follow
Okay,
him. He's more into whiskey now than coffee, but he's the one that created the recipe that I use for the AirPress.
Okay.
And they started this whole Monday AirPress Club hashtag back when they were running their podcast.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Mondays are
okay,
days.
so you still haven't said what would be the is it AirPress?
I mean,
I know it's
the thing
tough.
is, okay, so like in general, you're trying to make a clean cup of coffee.
Yep.
Like your AirPresses, the recipe I use does make it cleaner than like, the normal AirPress.
Right.
But I just, it's kind of one of those things. It depends on the coffee.
Okay.
Like, I would say my go-to for filter or go-to pour over would be the, Mountain Dripper.
Okay. So explain. So real quick, some of our people may not be down with the Mountain Dripper. So explain to me the Mountain Dripper.
So it's about the same size as a Kalita 155.
Okay.
So the smaller version of the Kalita. You can use either 185 or 155 filters in it. Okay. I think it does change the taste depending on what filter you use. The 155s, if I use a 185, my Mellow Drip lifts don't sit on top right.
Gotcha.
It like makes the filter all funky. But basically it's like a little mini Kalita because it's got one big giant hole in the bottom with three little holes around the sides. Yep. And I don't know, it just makes for a really consistent coffee.
Okay, so he said he also mentioned another piece of technology or another piece of coffee equipment, and that's the Mellow Drip. And so see if I can describe this well. Think of like a honeycomb filter that has like little holes in it that when you pour water over top of it, it evenly disperses the water over the grinds. Would that be a good description?
Except without agitation to the brew bed.
Without agitation.
Because that's the biggest thing. Because the honeycomb, it looks as far as looks, it definitely looks exactly like a honeycomb, and it's essentially like a shower head for your pour over. I mean, there's some kind of the same idea as some automatic pour over brewers out there that have kind of like that shower head. Yep. I mean, essentially, it's the biggest reason that it was created was to reduce the amount of agitation to the brew bed.
Okay, guys, I want to just remind you, this is the level that Aaron Moxley, home barista, is making coffee. Like it. I'm really excited to have you on because now it'll like shut Tyler up because I'm always like the nerdy one, keep pushing the limits and now like, dude, you've now raised the bar to a level that like, oh dude, I can't wait. Like I can't wait to get a Mellow Drip. I've heard a lot about them. I've done research on them. But just of that, not agitating the coffee bed, in the control of trying to get consistency, is from what I understand is like it's another way to control the parameters even more into getting a consistent cup of coffee. Would you say that that Mellow Drip and that setup is your most consistent way of making coffee?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. I would say, that honestly, the recipe that I use for the AeroPress is I've not had every other time I've had an AeroPress recipe, I've had to change it.
Okay.
every like few months. The recipe I use, it's been consistent for 3-4 years now.
So is it
the
consistent
AeroPress
even if you
doesn't get a
change?
consistent recipe with that? And then with the pour over, it would definitely be like with the mellow drip, especially with. I've got it dialed in well with like the Kalita, but even more so with the Mountain Dripper.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean it's.
So is that like with your recipes, are you able just to throw any type of bean at it?
I mean, I'll say so when I get a new coffee in, like tonight, I got my friend Aaron, another Aaron, from he works at Flatlands Coffee up in Ohio, but he also has his own roasting kind of little side hustle called Rubato Coffee.
Yeah.
Rubato Coffee Lab, I think technically is the name, and he sent me some coffee, and so I just got it today, and so I brewed some, and I just used a little kind of like my go-to recipe for like it's a small recipe. I mean, honestly, I'm a small dose like kind of guy.
Yeah, we talked a little bit through Instagram, and you were talking. I was trying to understand a recipe that another coffee shop had told me about, and you were talking about like I only get that. I think you were saying like under 200 grams. Like
it's the recipe I did tonight, and normally when I get a coffee and I'll do it, and it's 12 grams of coffee to 200 grams of water, and there's no circling around the brew bed at all.
Yeah.
And it's what I used in prelims as well.
Okay.
You just pour 50 grams in, straight in, no going around, no nothing, just straight in, let it bloom for 50 seconds. And then the remaining 150 grams straight in as well. And you get it in pretty quick.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of swirl the Mountain Dripper to, make sure that, everything gets wet, nothing's staying up on the side for flatbed technically.
Yeah.
And even though for it being a flat bottom dripper, it's not as like with V60, it's more important for that flatbed.
Yeah.
It's not as important with the Kalita Wave. And also, well, I wouldn't say that it's not important, but it's more of like, you're not going to get, it's more consistent.
Gotcha. Yep.
Than a V60 anyway.
So are you pre-washing your filters?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Because there are going to be people that I'm 100% sure are going to be like, listen to this back and back and back, and they're going to try this recipe. I know if caffeine didn't affect me this much, right now, because we're recording at like 9:20 at night. So if not, I would be brewing a cup right now while we're talking.
See, I'm that guy that can drink coffee now, and I will drink coffee after this. Jeez. And I had a cup like 30. I'd finished. I just had actually just a minute ago. I drank like the last of some of that one coffee I brewed. So
man,
yeah, I can drink and then go to bed the next minute.
That's crazy.
Honestly.
Like, dude, I would love that. I won't drink decaf because it's just garbage. Like it's almost as bad as drinking Starbucks in my opinion. So I don't even I have to stop. If I have a cup past 4 p.m., you'll see I'll have to run for at least 5 to 6 miles and like hard because I have way too much energy. So
wow. Yeah, no, I don't know. I've kind of always been like that for the most part.
That would be so nice. So the reason why you're on the episode and really what I wanted to just talk to you about is you made it into competition coffee. And normally competition coffee is full-time baristas working at coffee shops, right? Like
right.
I tried to pay attention. Were you the only home barista?
No, well, okay, so it gets strange because like people will sign up as independents, but they're still like
gotcha. Okay, so
so I know for qualifiers in Nashville, there was one independent that was ahead of me.
Gotcha.
And placed, but she works for Intelligentsia.
So being an
I don't
independent,
know the reason behind going independent.
Yeah.
And still working for a shop, but
gotcha.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard sometimes to be able to know. And I think there were a few. There was like maybe one or two that were independents. And I mean,
Gotcha.
I beat the other independents in Richmond
Dude.
for prelims, but yeah, I mean, it's hard to really know if someone's like an actual independent unless you like kind of look into it, or like, you know, find out from, or watch the routine or whatever it may be. So
I'm going to explain to the people what we're talking about, and I ask some questions about this competition. So
Brewers Cup.
The Brewers Cup.
Mm-hmm.
And so I hopped on and watched. So you make multiple cups for judges,
Right.
and you're brewing each judge a cup, kind of walking through it, and then you serve them the cup. Are they drinking? So is it on aroma, taste, and all of that? Because doesn't it affect the beans?
Yeah.
Do you get supplied
so
beans?
There's different things. So you're based on your presentation for
Gotcha.
one, and there's like a customer service score. I know enough where I knew what I needed to do.
Gotcha.
But I mean, it's basically based on your presentation. It gets separated in different categories.
Yeah.
But it's basically based on your presentation, along with your coffee, and how you have to give out flavor calls. And there's ways to get like multipliers. You get more points for things, or like say you say something tastes like, like watermelon candy. Like instead of you saying like, oh, this tastes like watermelon, because you gave it kind of something else, you get like more points and things like that. But at the same time, your coffee also has to taste the way that you said
Describe
it.
it. Okay.
So, but it's also, it's body, aroma, flavor, acidity, and balance.
I mean, it is a competition, so it's not just making a cup and then presenting it and trying to craft the best cup. There's a whole different side of presentation, which has got to be tough being an independent. And I mean, you probably are really good at making the cup because that's what you do at home, but it's different because you be presenting to your wife and kids. It's right. It's like, or you're having friends over to kind of craft that presentation.
Exactly.
So you did the first one. The first step was in Richmond.
Mm-hmm.
You made it to the next round. Is that how it works?
Well, so anybody could sign up for qualifiers, which is in Nashville.
Gotcha.
But since I went to prelims and I placed fourth, the top four were able to register like a week or two previous to open registration.
Gotcha.
Which for this year for brewers, that was huge because Nashville actually sold out in like less than 2 minutes.
Oh,
for
wow.
Brewers Cup. Yeah, and they even had to add on 3 more spots in both Nashville and in Sumner,
That's
where the
crazy.
other qualifiers was.
That's wild, man. So I was able to hop on and watch you in Nashville on your, I think one of your friends was holding your phone and doing the Instagram live. And so I was able to watch it. It was very, very cool watching you talk about your story, watching you brew the cup, do all the things that you had to do. I mean, it was like, a juggling session from multiple cups. How many cups did you have to make? Was it 3 or 4?
It was 3.
3.
Yeah, it was 3. It was 2 in prelims and then 3 in qualifiers.
I have tried to do 2 pour overs at a time, and I did not start correctly, so my time was not spaced out, and so I botched the second one. It was rough. So I couldn't imagine adding a third one in there, how difficult it would be.
Yeah, you got to time it right for sure. I would say that the thing is, in qualifiers, I had a plan of when to like start each one.
Yeah.
But I kind of like, in my nervousness and stuff, it kind of got thrown off a little bit. But the coffee ended up tasting good, but the cups were slightly different. But it's definitely all about timing.
Gotcha.
But like you could do something over and over again, and then like your nerves hit you because
Right.
you're in front of all these judges and people, and like, and it just, yeah. So, but yeah, it's all about timing. All about timing. 2 is way easier than 3. I will tell you that.
Okay, so Nashville didn't go like Richmond did, and so
No, but it's still, for
Dude, it's still a big deal, man. Like,
Oh, it's still huge. Like it's
it's
still
huge.
huge. One thing I want to add about Nashville real quick is, since people may not know, there is another portion of the competition that wasn't in prelims, but it's in qualifiers, which is called compulsory. So in compulsory, you're given I wouldn't necessarily say bad coffee, but it is a bad coffee. And you have 45 minutes to practice with it, dial in some type of recipe that kind of makes it taste the best you can, and like brew 3 cups. And then the judges just taste it, and it's all just based on taste, or all your, flavor, aroma, body, all those things. This year was extremely dark. It was a really dark coffee. I tried to do the best I could with it. I think I did. For my first year, I'm not too upset about how I did. But it's essentially taking like a coffee that normally has defects. This one didn't really have any defects. It was just dark, roasted pretty dark.
Would you say almost burnt? Like,
it was definitely borderline.
Okay.
I wished I had thought about taking my AirPress.
Yeah.
At the same time, I didn't have, even though I could have probably just used one, I didn't have 3.
Yeah.
Well, I did have 2 until I gave a friend one, but I didn't take that, which I don't know if that would have changed things.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but it's a pretty difficult thing, and that's how people win.
Okay.
Like even my friend that took first place, who helped me out a lot, actually, Alika from Onyx, he won based on his compulsory. Because his regular score was, because second was Jennifer Wang from Clatch Coffee.
Okay.
And her performance, she got a higher score than Alika, but Alika's compulsory was a higher score than hers.
Wow.
And so he ended up getting first. So the compulsory is how you win.
Wow.
So
to be able to take a bad bean and produce a good, wow.
Yeah, pretty much. And so it's a tough thing to do. So
that's exciting because, like, I don't think I'm good enough at making coffee to take a bad bean. Like I'm a man. That's a fun challenge. Yeah. I'm gonna have to try that.
Yeah.
Like take a bad or lesser bag and try to produce. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well.
Yeah.
So the compulsory, you that was your first time. Have you attempted that at the house, or was that your first go at it?
So I had the most I had done. So Alika from Onyx, he gave me. If he had told me, if he had known, he would have sent me some sooner, because they under roast and roast stuff specifically for practicing with compulsory.
Gotcha.
And so he had some stuff, and so when we were in Nashville, he gave me some. And the night before, I was up pretty late. The night before, practicing with that and trying to do the best I could. Couldn't really get. I felt like I was getting, like that coffee for sure. The coffee that from Onyx, that was roasted better than what we ended up having for compulsory for sure. But it's still like it's just a really tough thing to do.
Yeah.
So and I mean, that's kind of like, and they have that apparently. So it's not just based on like, not just anybody can come in.
Right.
And like, just blow the judges away, have this amazing coffee. There's more to it than just that.
Right. So let me ask you, what beans did you use in the first, the challenge that you did? Did they supply you with beans?
For prelims?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it ended up being, there's a few different roasters. The one it was an Ethiopia. I think it was a washed Ethiopia.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was from Small Plains up in DC.
Okay.
It was an amazing coffee. It really, really was. But so you get there, you do a cupping, and you don't know who roasted the coffee till after the whole entire competition's done.
Okay.
But you do a cupping, you pick your top 3 favorite coffees. As long as there's enough, you'll get your top pick, and then you're given the coffee for 30 minutes for practice. And then you figure out what you're going to do with it. And then you have your presentation.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's quick. Dude, so you really have to be thinking on your feet, man. There's like most of the time half the bag, and I'm still trying to dial in. I'm like, man, like, I guess I'll have to try again later. I've had my 4 cups for the day. I can't do any more. Oh, dude, that's awesome. Okay, so what next in the home barista? I mean, like, what's your thoughts? Like, I mean, you've got to be getting attention from the industry. I mean, I think I see like 2 other accounts repost you or post photos of you.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Sometimes I wish like I could get more feedback from like my insights on Instagram, because like I'll get like there will be some posts and like I'll have like 7 people like share it in their stories.
Isn't that dude? That's so frustrating. I'm like, you can see that somebody like either sent it or reposted it, but you can't see who sent it or reposted it. I'm like, tell me that.
So I don't know, but I would say, I would say this for sure kind of opened some people's eyes and were like, hey, like, you know, especially without really calling out anybody's names at all, not to bad talk at all, but just like when I was in Richmond, it was kind of like when I was doing my presentation, it seemed like some people kind of was like, oh, wait, he's not connected to a shop at all. And then it's kind of really woke them up when I took 4.
It's like, hold on, wait, he's like legitimate. Like, this is a real deal. Like, what?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that's awesome.
And yeah, I mean, I definitely think people are, you know, have seen noticing. And I mean, and the thing is, like, you know, talking to people in Nashville and some of the people behind like running the Brewers Cup stage and everything, you know, they've said, you know, that's the awesome thing about this. You know, they have, you know, they've had real estate agents, you know, come in and compete and even go to nationals. And so, you know, it's fair game for everybody. It's just one of those things that you definitely have to have more discipline. I mean, and you know, I don't know. I mean, it's just, to me, I'm just constantly every day when I'm brewing a cup, I'm like, oh, what can I do different today? To like, you know, change this up. Like, so. Well,
I have finding out about your Instagram and following along. I knew there were competitions, but I didn't know that like a home barista like could get to that level. You know, I mean, I figure somebody that's behind a bar getting reps in like they are, you know, that's a total different level than me. I mean, I'm making a lot of coffee, but I'm not making 100 plus cups a day, right? I mean, you know, I make coffee in my office for people all the time, like anytime anybody asks, but I may make 10 cups a day, but like, you know, it's only 10 cups. So, dude, seriously, it's been fun watching you in the competition, given the insight. I always love what you're posting, what you're sharing. One last question, beans. I know where you're at, and you're at a pretty good area that has a lot of craft beans. But what's your go-to? Do you have one?
I mean, I have I'm always like,
or maybe not go-to in bean or roaster. What do you have a go-to region?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I would say so, but the wild thing is, even in the last 6 years of me being in coffee, like I would say in the beginning, my go-to was like, you know, Ethiopia.
Gotcha.
Because I mean, I'll never, you know, I feel like everybody kind of like their like aha or like wake up moment was like in Ethiopia.
Yeah, you're
like,
right.
You know, blueberries.
Right.
Like, you know, and you know, I've had those coffees, and you know, that's kind of like where I was back then. But the crazy thing is how much the coffee, like processing methods and stuff have changed coffee, because it used to be some of those notes that you would get out of Ethiopia's and Kenya's. that's where you got them.
Yeah.
And now, get coffees from Costa Rica,
Yep.
from El Salvador. I mean, literally from Colombia.
Yeah.
I mean, with La Palma, with what they're doing with their processing methods, and now with, carbonic and anaerobic and all these different crazy methods and stuff, you're able to pull these notes out of, beans that you're not normally going to be getting that out of.
Right.
So it's kind of one of those things. It's like, I will say this, probably I love Kenya's probably more than like anything else.
Okay.
It's something to do with the body of it, because how like a Kenya has that like almost syrupy like body to it.
Yep.
I love Kenya's, but I also love Ethiopia's and I love Colombia's.
Yeah.
And I've had some stellar Costa Ricas.
So I think we have 5 pounds of, I think it's Brundy, which is it Brundy? It's a bourbon.
Is it from Long Miles?
On the bag, it doesn't say where it's from, but I want to say when I did the research because it says Brundy on it, I think it's a like region east of Kenya. Like if you look on the map, it's Kenya, but it's just right on the edge of it. I think it's Brundy. I could be totally wrong at this moment, but
Is Tanzania in that? Tanzania's
no,
Tanzania?
it's not, because I remember we've got two. We've got a I want to say it's Brundy, and then we've got another one that is from, I think I took photos of them, but they're in the same region. We get 2 5-pound bags every week, and so we our Sugar Creek roaster, who we get our coffee through, he like gets us the hookup. So this is like super light roast. One of them is super light roast. I mean, it's like almost under roasted, honestly, and then very tea-ish, greenish, and then the other one is like light, and it's super good. Like the only problem is, I think the variance from a hot cup of coffee to an enjoyable temperature, the variance is way too different, and that's not normal.
Oh, see, I love that.
Do you like that?
Oh, when a coffee changes from temperature, that is my.
It just kind of catches me off guard. Like, it's not that, like, okay, maybe that's where you get good coffee. Maybe that's what is a classifier of good coffee. But it's just.
I think it is.
You think it is?
Yeah, like I would classify like the difference between like a good cup of coffee and like a great cup of coffee if like it changes as the temperature.
Okay, so I got a bag of Pure Intentions that today that was somebody gifted me. It was the Columbia specialty cup, so it was like it was a championship lot. So it was a lot that like wanted.
Yeah, I'm really posting about
and so I got a bag of it, and that was that one was so drastic. It tasted like cinnamon, and as it cooled, it had like a not like cinnamon sugar, like cinnamon, like the actual, like, so when you give flavor, people like cinnamon sugar. No, like just straight cinnamon.
Just straight cinnamon.
And then as it cooled, it came to life. It was wild. Like I was like, whoa, this cup was crazy good. And I had it in a pour over, and then I did it in a siphon, which I love the siphon brew. But dude, that's okay. I'm gonna have to dive into that a little bit more, and that flavor changing, because normally the stuff that I get
can be super super fun.
Okay,
because you'll get especially when you get to like where it's you'll get say it's. And like that also comes into like balance as well with the cup, which is like a big thing, because like you have a balance. To me, like balance is like what makes. I mean, I guess balance in a way is like what we're talking about technically,
right?
But when like the best thing is when like you have like an Ethiopia or like some like super just fruit bomb, like just something fruity and juicy, and then it's cold and it like tastes like raspberry tea or hibiscus tea or something, just like something. It's where it doesn't even really taste like coffee anymore.
Dude, I remember I got a bag of Onyx, and so we have a Undercurrent selling Onyx, and I got a bag of Onyx. It was pricey. I think it was like 10 ounces for like $32 or something. So it was it was my like first expensive bag of coffee, and that was with air quotes, guys. So I get it, and I'm like, whoa, this is wild. It was the wildest cup of coffee I had ever had, and kind of led me down this spiral of like coffee. It can be so much more than just tasting like garbage just you burnt caffeine. But man, it was wild. So have you ever had a chance to try any of the like 4 ounce $100 bags of Onyx?
I mean, technically, so I had Alika's competition coffee is pretty pricey because it's like the Columbia La Palma. It's a lactic process, but it was a geisha, and I'm pretty sure I'm assuming they probably they were selling it, I know, after his competition for $10 a cup. For flavor. And so dude, I had it brewed by him.
Do you know how much $10 a cup would go for in beans?
Yeah.
Dude, that's wild.
So and then did you see about the Eugenoids from them?
No.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
So it's not a new varietal. It's like so you have Robusta and you have
Arabica.
What are the other type of beans? Arabica and Robusta. This is a new like type of coffee, like straight up. And
dude,
I want to say it's Colombia, but it's called Eugenoids, and this coffee has this like maltiness to it, where it literally tasted like a bowl of I think it was Lucky Charms.
Oh, no way, dude.
Yeah, it has this weird maltiness to it. So a friend of mine he's actually from the Nashville area, and I met him when I was out there on Instagram. He got it was like I think it was like a 4 ounce bag. There was like 4 ounce bag for like $36.
Yeah,
maybe something in the $30 range.
Wow.
So I only got 15 grams because how they said to brew it was either they gave a recipe for AirPress and a recipe with Kalita Wave, and they said this is like their way they would say to brew it, just because it's such a different coffee.
Yeah.
And so I went over to my friend's house in Greensboro, and we brewed it up with how they said it, and like I mean the cup was just a completely different experience.
Wow.
Like just very very malty. Like this, like just milkiness, like that you don't see in like other coffee. So
that's crazy.
I'm hoping it's more of a thing. I know Amethyst Coffee in Denver, which they just started roasting. The roaster that I got into coffee with in Colorado Springs, Switchback. Their old roaster, Sam, Amethyst has just started roasting, and they actually had some Eugenoids, I know. So it's kind of making its rounds. It seems like some, but if you ever get your hands on it, it's some wild stuff.
It's really cool. Well, listen, Aaron, I am so very grateful that you hopped on. We're very excited to see what's next coming out, what next competition you get involved in, where this homebrew takes you, and dude, I will make it up to Winston hopefully soon, and we'll be able to grab a physical cup of coffee together.
Yes,
and
yes,
be a lot of fun.
I would say one last thing I just want to add is a kind of thing. You're in Charlotte, so when I went to competition, there's this friend of mine, Zach Samey.
Yeah, dude, Zach.
He works for Hex, and they have a GoFundMe up right now to help get him out to California for nationals.
Did he qualify?
Yeah, he qualified. He
no
was
way.
Right above me. Yeah, he was 15th.
Dude, that's incredible.
Yep. And he beat me by like point. It was like 0.4. It was like less than half a point, pretty much.
Well, so when I went to I did a cupping at the previous place he worked at, and you had just beat him.
Yeah,
And so he was like, he was so dude, that's dude, that's awesome, man. Well, I will definitely have to stop by Hex, and so we're gonna put the link to his GoFundMe in the show notes. So one, we're gonna have Aaron's Instagram handle in the show notes. Two, we're gonna have Zach's information, because Zach, for our area, what Zach's doing, he's a young man, really, dude, and his commitment to coffee is crazy. Yeah, I'm glad he's hooked up with Hex. Roasting, I know his like coffee journey is going to be like extraordinary, starting where he's at and the level that he's already delivering at 19 is bonkers. So,
and he's got a crazy palate too.
Yeah,
like he really does. Like for 19 years old, he's got he's got an insane palate.
That's awesome. Well, listen, Aaron, thanks so much for taking the time. I really do appreciate you sharing your knowledge and wisdom, and we will talk to you again soon.
Sweet. For sure, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir.
Well, like I said, 2 Aarons are better than one. What a good interview with Mr. Aaron Moxley.
Yeah, dude. I know it was a long one, but man,
you are kind of wordy sometimes.
We could talk forever, because it's just like 2 peas in a pod. But we've got to get some of that new coffee. The eugenoids.
Yeah, eugenoids. That sounds like something you have removed when you're young. Like I had my eugenoids out today.
Well, I'm excited. We're going to have him on again. He's reached out, and we're going to be chatting. We're going to try to chat frequently. And I think we've got another guest that we're trying to get on here, Mr. Strothman.
Mr. Joe.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Friend of the podcast, Joe. We will definitely have him back shortly. Well, that about wraps up today's episode. Guys, thanks so much for listening. Take 30 seconds real quick and go to your podcast provider and just leave us a quick rating and review. That just simply helps us spread the word about the Coffee Snobs Podcast. You can find us on social media, on the Instagram, Coffee Snobs Podcast, on the Twitter, Coffee Snobs NC. And Aaron, if they want to reach out to you, where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Aaron Beaver, AARONBEAVER. And what about you, Tyler?
I'm also on the gram and the Twitter at Ty Dancy, TYDANCY. And that wraps up today's episode. For Aaron, this is Tyler signing off. We will see you on the next show.
Adios.